Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's lesson for Wednesday, the 1st of September. Now, many of you successfully got on to Google Classroom yesterday and did some really good work. Well done. But as you will see on today's GrammarNet page, there are a number of you who didn't even log on yet. You need to do that right now by clicking on that link once you've finished watching this lesson. And still quite a few of you who have not done yesterday's work. So let's just take a look at the screen. This was yesterday's task, this assignment here, the character chart task. I can see by clicking on there who has done any work and who has not. So please do that first today. Today we have got another chart to fill out. I think you'll agree that this is a useful way of getting some of your information and thinking about the film down on paper, and it's a way that I can see and help you with, and it's not too big a task every day. So let's click into this next task that we're going to do today, which is making some notes about important scenes. Right, so I'm going to click on there. Let's see what pops up. Now, all your names come up with the pieces of paper that I can see whether you've written on them or not. There's a template in there. None of you have done it yet because I haven't asked you to. But just to show you what I can see from my end, I can just go in there anytime during the day and look at what you've been up to. So let's click on this very first on Matthew's document, and I want to take a look at what I'm asking you to do today. So here we've got a chart, important scenes in Stand By Me. What I want you to do today, after you've watched the rest of the screencast, is to do some work in this first box. And we're going to be looking at the viaduct scene again. So all you need to do is type in viaduct scene where I've got my cursor. What I also want you to do is to then look at some themes. What are the themes that are coming out in this scene? And we're going to talk about that as we go through the scene in a minute. And I want you to cover two different themes. So you type in what is the first theme that you can see being shown in that scene. What is the second theme being shown in that scene? And then for each of these themes, I want you to just choose one technique that shows you that theme. And that theme could be a camera shot, it could be a camera angle, a shot with a particular angle, it could be ambient sound, it could be the sounds that you hear inside the film, so the sounds that the other characters hear. It could be dialogue, it could be music. These are the different film techniques we've already discussed. Dialogue, I may not have mentioned to you, dialogue itself is a film technique, the things that the characters say. So I want you to choose two techniques which show you that first theme, and I want you to write a little bit about their effect. So listen carefully when I start looking at the film with you in a minute. Two techniques per theme, and that's all I want you to do today. Here is another scene. We're not going to do that today. Okay, so let's take a look right through the train scene, the viaduct scene. All right, so here we are at the very beginning of the scene. It would be useful for you to have your red notebooks, exercise books out and ready to take some notes as we go, because you might think that's the technique I'm going to write about to tell me about that theme, and you might want to pause your video and just quickly take a few notes about that so that it's really easy for you to fill out your box after this. All right, so feel free to pause this anytime. I'm going to go through quite a lot of stuff now, quite a few of these shots, quite a few techniques, and how they link into themes. Before we start that, think yourself about the themes that we've already talked about. We've talked about the themes of growing up. We've talked about the theme of death, which is connected with growing up, because the reality of death is something that as you stop being a young child, you have to come to terms with. we've talked about the theme of friendship, how going through challenges and difficult times is so much easier and more rewarding through friendship when you have friends to do it with. And then finally, the other theme we've mentioned is this theme of courage, because it takes courage to face challenges, and these boys do that. And this scene is a good example of courage. It's a good example of friendship. It's a good example of how they've got to grow up and face the reality of death. Okay, so I've got all 4 themes that I mentioned in that last sentence, and they're all shown in this scene. Okay, let's start at the beginning. What I want you to do first is just listen. What can you hear? Okay, so we've just listened to the very beginning, those first 2 shots that we talked about yesterday, and the director does something very clever using sound. The ambient sounds, or the diegetic sound that you heard just then, tells us something quite important. Listen again. So we didn't hear those sounds in the previous scene because the director didn't bring them forward into our consciousness. They weren't emphasized. But in the beginning of this scene, those sounds are emphasized. What did you hear? I heard the sound of a hawk or an eagle or some wild bird calling in the wild. And straight away, that sound of the bird calling makes us understand something important about the boys' situation, and that is in the wild on their own place, and that sound accentuates that shot. Okay, let's keep going. So this shot yesterday this shot is similar to the one we talked about yesterday, where we're having a close-up on Gordy's face. We can see that he's a bit anxious about what might be coming. They've already discussed that the train might be coming. And here we have an extreme close-up on an object, on a hand on the rail to show us what Gordy is up to. He's testing to see if the train is coming. And then we see. So this shot obviously is a close-up showing what? Terror, awareness of the danger that they are in. So that's connected to the idea of growing up because they are in great danger. And there's a little bit of slow motion in there too as he goes, train. The director is using the close-up shot, the dialogue, train, yelled out, and the slow motion in that expression to accentuate the terror of this moment. That's how we know what's going on. That's how we know how terrified he is and the danger that the boys are in. Let's keep watching.
Oh shit! Move it, man! Go on, move it! Get up first! Damn it! Get up! Move it! Shit! Get up! Move on, man! I don't want him to go.
Now this is quite a remarkable shot. These ones are quite remarkable because they're medium shots showing Gordy and Vern wrestling on the ground on the bridge, and they show something really important about the relationship between the boys. Because you can imagine if you were terrified and you could see that train coming down bearing on you, and Vern dropped to the floor and couldn't move because he was so scared, you can imagine that you might just want to jump over him and get out of there yourself. But Gordy does this amazing thing. He refuses to let Vern lie there. He yells at him. He pushes him, he pulls him up, he gets him running. And this is a really good example of how friendship works. We get each other through really tricky moments. Let's keep going. Look at that great shot. Suddenly the director switches from that straight on close medium shot or of the beginning of the front of the train. We've gone straight from that shot of the front of the train to this extreme long shot showing what is the reality of what's happening. And you can see the boys running for their lives and the train bearing down on them. And that's a clever choice of editing that the director is giving us this understanding of the whole situation by choosing these different kinds of shots. Okay, there's another important shot coming up. This one, I love this shot. So this is you call it a close-up on their feet, running as fast as they can to show us the urgency, the whole thing, the whole danger of the scene. Their feet are running as fast as they can. So you could use that as one of your particular techniques to talk about if you wanted to. How we see the feet running as fast as they can, both pairs of feet, two friends together running as fast as they can, showing the whole idea of having to grow up and keep themselves alive, and the whole idea of friends doing this together, because it's not just one pair of feet, it's two pairs of feet. They're doing it together. This is also a really important shot, the final one I'm going to talk about, because you can see on their faces, this is a medium shot with two characters from their waist up. You can see on their faces the concern and the emotion in their expressions, showing how terrified they are that these guys might not make it. And so that shot in itself shows the strength of their friendship. Okay, so in that little sequence of shots, the director shows us a lot of important things about the heart of this film: the friendship, the courage, the facing danger and death, and therefore growing up and overcoming the challenges, which we've already done some work on. So there's a lot in this scene that you will be able to use to write about when you start writing your Stand By Me essays. Okay, so that's enough from me today. What I want you to do now is to maybe make some notes, go back and watch this little clip again and my comments, and decide which two themes are you going to write about in this scene, and which two techniques are you going to talk about per theme, and then just type them in. You don't have to write too much, but you do need to explain why that technique is effective at showing that theme. So, for instance, the shot of the train, the front of the train coming towards them, that's a medium shot at that stage. Or is it a long shot? One or other. You have a look at it. That shows the train coming straight towards them. It shows the danger they are in, which shows that these boys are going through the process of having to grow up, because small children don't find themselves in situations where they could die. But these guys are doing the growing ups and becoming people who are looking after themselves. Okay, kia kaha. That's enough for me. Have a great day.